Great. Thank you for joining the Boston Zoning Commission public hearing. The open public meeting law requires that I notify the public that this meeting is being recorded. Please be aware that an audio and visual recording of this meeting is being made. Before we introduce our interpreters, I'll take a roll call of members present at the beginning of this meeting. I'm the chair, Michael Nichols, and I'm present. Ms. Hatton?
Present.
Ms. Morikawa?
Present.
Ms. Miller? Mr. DeMella?
Present.
Mr. Marr?
Present.
Mr. Leff?
Present.
Mr. Arroyo?
Present.
Mr. McNeil?
Present.
Mr. Ostrich?
Present.
Mr. Woods?
Present.
I do believe we expect the members that have not joined us just yet, so when they arrive, we will.
Aisha's here.
Oh, Ms. Miller, present. Thank you. Would at this time planning department staff introduce our interpreters so they can introduce themselves?
Yourself.
Ani, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So Wei Li, can you please introduce yourself? It's the Mandarin interpreter.
Thank you, madam. Good morning. My name is Wei. I will be a Chinese Mandarin interpreter. 大家好，我是你的普通话同声翻译。So you need to go to the global channel to choose Mandarin Chinese to go to my Chinese interpreting. 如果你要选择中文的翻译的话呢，请进入翻译频道，然后呢进到我们同声传译如果是使用手机或者平板电脑，请点击3个点，然后选择更多，进入翻译频道。Okay, back to you. Yeah.
So it's going to be Joan and then Melissa right after.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Joan. I'll be the Cantonese interpreter for this morning meeting. 大家好，我係鐘，會係今日嘅廣東話同聲傳譯員。一陣間主持人會開啟翻譯頻道，你會見到熒光幕底部有一個地球儀標誌，點選地球儀標誌揀語言，然後揀 Cantonese 就會聽到今日嘅廣東話即時傳譯㗎啦。咁唔該晒 ，Thank you.
Hello everybody, I'm Melissa. I'm going to be the Spanish interpreter for today. Hola a todos, soy Melissa, soy la intérprete de español para el día de hoy. En breve, cuando activemos el canal de interpretación, van a poder ver en las opciones de Zoom un icono con forma de globo que dice interpretación. Desde ahí van a hacer clic y elegir español para escuchar simultáneamente. Muchas gracias.
Great. Anyone else? Seeing none, the language interpretation channels are now open. We'll now move forward with our 9 a.m. public hearing. This is a public hearing before the Boston Zoning Commission to consider text amendment application numbers 537 and 538 with respect to the Groundwater Conservation Overlay District. The hearing was duly advertised on October 1st, 2025 in the Boston Herald. In a Boston Zoning Commission hearing on proposed petitions, the proponent will first present their case and are subject to questioning by members of the commission only. We are taking support and opposition at the same time. If you then plan to testify during our public comment, you will please take time now to verify that your computer microphone is active. You will click the hand icon on your Zoom control panel. This will signal to staff that you would wish to speak. When your hand is raised, it will be blue. If you are calling into the meeting and would like to testify, please dial *9 to raise your hand. When I call for all testimony, staff will announce your name and allow you to speak. You will be able to unmute your microphone, but your webcam will not be active. In an effort to accommodate all who would wish to speak about each proposal, each person will be given only up to 2 minutes to comment. Commission staff will indicate when 30 seconds remain. At that time, please conclude your remarks so that the hearing may continue and others may be heard. Please offer new information during your testimony. Please do not repeat information or testimony that has been stated prior. If someone has offered similar testimony to yours, please simply state your name and whether you are for or against the proposed amendments. Finally, the proponents are allowed a brief period of 5 to 10 minutes for rebuttal if they so desire. Will the planning department please begin this morning's first presentation?
Great, thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jack Halverson, and I'm a zoning reform planner with the planning department. I'm pleased to be presenting a zoning amendment to update the Groundwater Conservation Overlay District, GCOD, which was approved by the BPDA board on September 18th. This amendment has been developed in close collaboration with the Boston Groundwater Trust over the past year. And today we're joined by Christian Simonelli from the Boston Groundwater Trust, who will be helping present and will also be available for questions afterward. Christian, please go ahead.
Thank you, Jack. Good morning, everyone. Commission members, Christian Simonelli, Executive Director of the Groundwater Trust. Just to give you a little bit of background, so our organization was established by the Boston City Council in 1986 with the sole purpose of preserving buildings within the field land areas of the city that are supported on wood piles. The GCOD was first proposed in 2005 and adopted in 2006. And the whole purpose of that is basically, in a nutshell and as a screenshot, just to show you what we're up against, is to preserve the groundwater table and preserve the wood piles that support these buildings. And the way that we do that is we find leaks in sewers and drains and have those fixed, and that brings the groundwater table up. But the second most important thing that we do is the GCOD, is the zoning. And the way that the zoning helps groundwater levels is that it can take roof drains that would ultimately go into the storm system or out into the street and put them back into engineered groundwater recharge systems. So on a day like today, where we have all this rain falling, it can go into these engineered recharge systems, go into the ground, help maintain a healthy groundwater table. So we have a condition on the right where the blue line and the water table is above the tops of the pilings, thus preserving them. We're really protecting the value and the structural integrity of the land and these buildings. As all of you know, the city's residential tax base is basically the financial backbone of the city's budget. And a huge portion of that comes from these buildings that are supported on wood piles. And so these modifications today really aim to further strengthen the GCOD that was established, and also, as Jack and Kathleen will get into, sort of streamline the existing process that we have and allow for a lot more of these infiltration systems to be approved and for people to do this type of stuff. I'm going to hand it back over to Jack. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Christian. So Article 32 regulates GCOD, and only some kinds of projects are subject to these regulations. For projects that are subject to GCOD, they must certify that there aren't negative impacts on groundwater levels, and they have to incorporate a groundwater recharge system to capture more water on the project site. And these projects are all reviewed right now by the BWSC, the Groundwater Trust, and then must get approved by the Zoning Board of Appeal. Next slide. So these are the four types of projects. Dig down are projects that excavate deep enough into the ground to potentially cause structural issues. Lot coverage are projects that expand the area of the lot that's covered by buildings by more than 50 square feet. Paving projects are any projects that include new or replacement paved surfaces. And finally, substantial rehabilitation are significant renovations where the renovation costs more than 50% of the structure's existing value. Next slide. So compliance with GCOD regulations is confirmed by BWSC and the Groundwater Trust staff, but ultimately must get approved by the Zoning Board of Appeal. Since 2022, there have been about 120 cases where GCOD is applicable, and 47 of which had GCOD as the only zoning violation. So this means that they're going through the ZBA process so that staff from the Groundwater Trust can ultimately just tell the board whether or not they have complied with GCOD regulations. And substantial rehab projects are the vast majority of these cases where GCOD is actually the only violation here. Next slide. So this is what the existing process is for GCOD reviews, which is the standard process for any project going to the ZBA. So a building permit is filed, ISD reviews it for zoning compliance, and then they automatically get issued a refusal letter because GCOD requires conditional use approval. So once an applicant files an appeal, BWSC and Groundwater Trust staff review the project for compliance with GCOD. Then at the ZBA, Groundwater Trust staff will tell the ZBA if they are compliant or not. Next slide. So we're proposing to keep this exact same process in place for the dig down projects, the lot coverage projects, and paving projects. Next slide. We are, though, proposing to remove this conditional use permit requirement for substantial rehab projects. So this means that substantial rehab projects would not need to go to the ZBA for their final approval, but instead follow a typical building permit process. Very importantly, these projects would still be reviewed by the BWSC and groundwater trust staff for compliance. And also, if a project still has other zoning violations, it would still need to go to the ZBA. So this really specifically targets those substantial rehabilitation projects where GCOD is the only zoning violation, which ultimately is about 30% of GCOD cases that the ZBA sees. Next slide. So some additional changes are primarily administrative, like removing unnecessary sections from Article 32 and moving definitions into Article 2. And just to reiterate, there are several things that are not changing. So projects cited for GCOD still have to get their approval letter from BWSC for their groundwater recharge systems. Projects still need to have a no harm letter that certifies there's no negative impact on groundwater levels. And staff from ISD, BWC, and the Groundwater Trust would continue to be in collaboration on reviewing these projects for compliance. Next slide. And just to wrap up with a summary of our engagement so far on this effort, we've worked closely with the Groundwater Trust, BWSC, and ISD on this draft zoning. We released the draft zoning in early August and had a public meeting on August 19th. And then we also offered to attend neighborhood association meetings in each of the areas where GCOD is mapped. We ended up visiting with the Jeffreys Point Neighborhood Association and the Neighborhood Association of the Back Bay. So thank you all again for your time today, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Jack. We will now take questions from members of the commission only, followed by public testimony. Are there questions from any members of the commission on this matter? Well, let's pull the presentation down, especially with the wrong topic showing. Thank you. Questions on the groundwater conservation overlay district as proposed? Hearing no questions from our commissioners, we will move into public testimony on this item. I will note this is only for public testimony on the groundwater conservation overlay district item on today's agenda. Public testimony on downtown zoning will be heard later in today's meeting. Please indicate on your Zoom panel if you are interested in offering public testimony on this item.
I don't see any hands raised for this.
Thank you. We will close public testimony and move into our business session. Are there any comments, questions, or motions at this time from members of the commission?
Chair Nichols, I would move that I would make a motion that we approve text amendment applications numbers 537 to 538 groundwater conservation overlay district article 32.
I second.
We have a motion and it's been seconded. We will now move to a roll call vote of the commissioners. Ms. Hatton.
Yes.
Ms. Morikawa.
Yes.
Ms. Miller.
Yes.
Mr. DeMella.
Yes.
Mr. Marr.
Yes.
Mr. Leff.
Yes.
Mr. Arroyo.
Yes.
Mr. McNeil.
Yes.
Mr. Ostrich.
Yes.
Mr. Woods.
Yes.
And I vote yes. That's 11 in favor, 0 opposed. The motion carries. Congratulations, and in particular, thanks to the great work that Christian does on the groundwater overlay district and the planning department staff for this item.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We will now have a brief transition as we move to our 9:15 item on today's agenda. The 9:15 agenda item includes one recusal from today's meeting. That would be me, the chair, Michael Nichols, and I'd like noted for the record that I will be recusing from this item and departing the meeting at this time. This item will be chaired by our vice chair, Jill Hatt.
Thank you, Chair Nichols. We will now begin our 9:15 public hearing. This is a public hearing before the Boston Zoning Commission to consider text amendment application numbers 539 to 542 and map amendment application number 797 with respect to skyline zoning. The hearing was duly advertised on October 1, 2025 in the Boston Herald. In a Boston Zoning Commission hearing on proposed petitions, the proponent will first present their case and are subject to questioning by members of the commission only. We will take support and opposition at the same time. If you are planning to testify, please take time now to verify that your computer microphone is active. Click the hand icon on your Zoom control panel. This will signal staff that you would like to speak. When your hand is raised, it will be blue. If you are calling into the meeting and would like to testify, please dial *9 to raise your hand. When I call for all testimony, staff will announce your name and allow you to talk. You must unmute your microphone. Your webcam will not be active. In an effort to accommodate all who would like to speak about this proposal, each person will be given up to 2 minutes to comment. Commission staff will indicate when 30 seconds remain. At that time, please conclude your remarks so that the hearing may continue and others may be heard. We encourage you to offer new information during your testimony and suggest that you do not repeat information or testimony that has been stated prior. If someone has offered testimony similar to yours, please simply state your name and whether you are for or against the proposed amendments. Finally, the proponents are allowed a period of 5 to 10 minutes for a rebuttal if they so desire. Will the planning department please begin the presentation?
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the Zoning Commission. My name is Kairos Shen, and I'm the Chief of Planning of the City of Boston. I'd like to begin today's presentation just with a brief introduction and to provide some background to the extensive process the Planning Department took to arrive at the zoning proposal before you today. This zoning proposal came out of Plan Downtown, which began in 2018, included 5 years of engagement, followed by an additional 2 years specifically on the text for the zoning itself. The reason this zoning took close to 7 years is because at every opportunity, we have incorporated feedback from stakeholders of downtown, including many residents and businesses who are here in attendance today. We believe this proposal is the most balanced set of regulations we could reach and still meet the overarching goals of setting a clear vision for revitalizing downtown post-pandemic. It acknowledges the need for historic preservation, together with the opportunity for new density to advance the necessary transformation of downtown from a commercial and financial hub to a vibrant mixed-use neighborhood. The mayor and I have sent an open letter about the urgency of the moment and the need for adopting the zoning now. I will submit the letter for the record, but as you consider this proposal in front of you today, I want to call out 2 important activities that will continue post the approval. Number 1, we are committed to enforcing the state shadow law to protect the common and the public garden. Second, any development proposal to be processed under the new zoning will go through the Article 80 development review process, where there will be in-depth community engagement process to consider and mitigate the potential impacts of that specific proposal, including any impacts that would impact historic assets as well as the open spaces. I'd like to conclude by saying that a thriving, reimagined downtown, one with new investment, more residents, and a new mix of businesses that meet the needs of our residents today is good for our entire city and the region. Thank you, and I will turn this actual presentation to Kathleen and Andrew.
Thank you, Kairos.
You too, Shen. Good morning, everyone. My name is Andrew Namias, Senior Urban Designer with the Planning Department, and I'll provide an overview of the proposed zoning changes. Next slide. These zoning changes introduce a new zoning article and a map amendment to introduce new skyline districts across the downtown area. Next slide. As Chief Shen mentioned, this has been part of an extensive 7-year-long process, building off of the planned downtown process that went from 2018 to 2023. The zoning process resulted in 3 drafts based off of public comments and engagement. And we see this as striking a true balance path forward, one that really protects downtown's historic character while also enabling the investment and housing growth downtown needs. Next slide. Approved in 2023, Plan Downtown established a framework for the growth and preservation of downtown. Working with the community, Plan Downtown proposed 2 types of framework areas within these boundaries: enhance areas to affirm existing historic fabric, and growth areas to encourage large-scale mixed-use development. This framework directly informs the proposed zoning changes. Next slide. These changes reflect key themes heard throughout the Plan Downtown and the zoning process. I will break down how the zoning advances historic preservation and adaptive reuse, reduces hurdles facing new and existing businesses, and helps unlock critically needed housing growth, as well as reinforcing the city's ongoing commitment to the state's shadow regulations. Next slide. The zoning updates apply to the downtown areas between the Boston Common and the Public Garden and the Greenway, including lower historic areas like the ladder blocks between Tremont Street and Washington Street, and the taller, more commercial areas of the financial district and the Wharf District. Next slide. We're introducing 2 new zoning districts called Skyline Districts, Sky Low and Sky. Sky Low districts apply to areas with cohesive historic buildings and include a historic overlay, Sky Low DT, tailored to the smaller scale of downtown's historic fabric. Sky districts encompass areas with the city's highest concentration of jobs, housing, and entertainment density. They are designed to encourage housing and mixed-use growth, while also ensuring new development enhances the public realm. Next slide. These districts are mapped to align with Plan Downtown's development framework, and their boundaries have been refined through feedback received throughout the zoning process. Next slide. The new districts advance key measures to strengthen historic preservation throughout downtown that I will walk through. Next. The Sky Low DT district covers some of downtown's most significant historic areas, including areas along Washington Street, the ladder blocks, and the area around the Old South Meeting House. These boundaries were updated through several drafts over the past 2 years, working closely with stakeholders and the Office of Historic Preservation to include additional lower height areas and historic sites. The zoning also introduces a narrow pathway for PDA eligibility in Sky Low DT. This is meant as a strategic tool to incentivize investment in historic buildings linked with new housing development. To qualify, PDAs must be at least 1 acre in size, include as a designated landmark, devote at least 60% of the project to housing, and commit to preserving both the landmark and other historic buildings in the area. Across both Sky Low DT and Sky districts, the zoning takes significant measures to further prioritize adaptive reuse and support the city's ongoing office to residential conversion program. This includes eliminating zoning hurdles, including outdated open space and yard requirements that are being faced by several of the program's projects today. It also creates an incentive for adaptive reuse over new ground up construction, while also allowing flexibility for additions and electrification upgrades needed to bring existing buildings up to new energy code. The zoning also introduces new dimensional regulations to ensure buildings respect the existing built context and enhance the public realm. Some examples include reducing the size of large-scale blocks, requiring ground floor outdoor amenity space to expand the public realm, and requiring upper story step backs in order to reduce wind impacts and align new buildings with the neighboring context. Additionally, projects between 20,000 to 50,000 square feet will now be subject to small project design review to ensure compliance with downtown's design guidelines. Alongside safeguarding some of Boston's most historic areas, the zoning is committed to enabling new housing density in the heart of the city. Next. The Sky District in particular helps unlock underutilized sites like parking garages and parcels above or adjacent to T stations to enable new housing and street level activity, especially along the key Washington Street corridor. Article 80 development review will look closely at all impacts of new large-scale projects, including thorough shadow and wind analysis, and require measures to reduce or mitigate those impacts. And for the first time, downtown zoning will prioritize residential development. Residential units are allowed in all districts. Large research labs and hotel uses are conditional, partially to also ensure the careful review of impacts on the public realm. And throughout downtown, office uses over 250,000 square feet will also be conditional. This is to ensure every opportunity to incorporate housing as a part of any large-scale office and mixed-use development. This provision will expire in 2030 unless renewed by the Zoning Commission after evaluating its continued impact on downtown as both housing and a job center. With inclusionary zoning requirements in place for all residential projects, this zoning can enable affordable housing in downtown at a scale not feasible elsewhere in the city. As a part of inclusionary zoning requirements, affordable units must be built on site. Any off-site units require special approval from Thanks, Aisha. Any off-site units will require special approval from the Mayor's Office of Housing, and they must still be within a half mile of the project, ensuring that affordable units will stay downtown. Critically, the zoning also protects and affirms essential forms of affordable housing and services. This includes shelters, supportive housing, and lodging housing, which are valued in vital parts of the downtown area. And while unlocking more opportunities to live downtown, the zoning also makes critical changes to help fill empty storefronts and enable new and existing businesses to thrive. This includes aligning uses downtown with the updated Article 8 use table, removing outdated land use restrictions that allowed things like millinery shops and lamp stores that were very specific, but not businesses like fitness uses and escape rooms. The zoning will also make uses like coffee shops and shops with takeout that are currently conditional allowed. And next, finally, the zoning is designed to protect downtown's treasured green and open spaces by further reinforcing state shadow regulations. The state shadow regulations set limits on how much shadow buildings can cast on the common and public realm. The limitations supersede and are stronger than zoning as they can only be changed through action at the state level. The zoning updates clarify and reinforce state shadow law limits within zoning more explicitly than ever before. It includes direct references to state law as well as critical airspace limits in the code, and makes it very explicit that no development downtown can exceed state shadow laws. And as Chief Shen mentioned, even when projects, their shadows fall within the state shadow law limits, Article 80 development review will require a thorough analysis of their impacts on park spaces and can determine measures to reduce or mitigate those impacts. this can include improvements to park spaces or adjustments to the building form. It's also important to note here that the only new area where 700-foot height is possible is the area by State Street and Washington Street, where buildings over 500 feet already exist today. And in summary, these changes are reflected in a new Article 31, updates to the existing Article 8, and new definitions at Article 2. Next slide. And minor updates throughout the code also ensure consistency with these new changes. In addition to introducing the new Sky and Skylo DT districts, the amendment makes smaller map updates to ensure consistency with the new zoning. These include removing the Greenway Overlay District from the new Skyline districts, moving areas into Bay Village neighborhood and Chinatown district based off of neighborhood feedback, and also adjusting the boundary of the adult entertainment district, removing it from the Chinatown neighborhood district where no adult entertainment uses are located today. And so finally, together, these zoning changes support new opportunities for investment in housing downtown at every scale, opening the door for both growth, revitalization, as well as preservation. And we're really looking through these zoning updates to build a downtown that is more vibrant and livable for years to come. So thank you for your time today, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Andrew. Do any of the commissioners have any questions for Andrew?
I do. Andrew, just want to clarify on the zone near Pie Alley and State Street where we said you could get up to 700 feet. We don't anticipate a building of that size. If it casts a shadow, it is not towards the direction of the common. Is that correct, or it does not hit the common?
Correct. For the most part, development north of approximately Winter Street and the Bromfield Streets are far enough north of the parks to not cast shadow. But besides that, building heights are still limited in those areas. And the only new area that can go up to that 700 feet is north of State Street. So that doesn't include Pie Alley Garage, which is lower.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Andrew?
Yeah. Jill.
Okay. Hi, Ricardo. Sure,
Hi.
please.
Andrew, just for the benefit of the folks in the audience, could you once again reiterate the compliance, this proposal's compliance with the state shadow law?
Sure. So the state shadow law in all cases will supersede zoning. What this does is clearly within the Boston zoning code for the first time references those acts. Previously, they weren't referenced as any type of limit. They were always assumed as state regulations. So within the code, max building height, it clearly states that that is limited by state shadow law. It also includes new definitions, clearly laying out what those acts are. So in that way, the zoning reaffirms and reinforces those limits.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the commissioners for Andrew? It's a little difficult for me to see the hands, so please speak up if you're interested. Oh, Nelson? I think you're on mute. No, you're okay? Okay. Does that conclude the presentation by the development team or the planning department? Okay, great.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew, and thank you, Chief Shen. At this point, we will move into public testimony. As is the convention in our Boston Zoning Commission meetings, I would first ask if there are any representatives from elected officials that would like to speak. We will allow them to speak first. And so at this point, Jeff, will you take over from here, or would you like me to call on people?
Miranda is actually going to handle that today. Miranda
Okay,
Hall.
thank
Yep.
you.
Hi. First, I have Mela Gomez from Senator Edwards' office. Mela, go ahead.
Hi, this is Mela from Senator Edwards' office. I will be testifying on her behalf today. I'm going to be reading the letter that she's submitting to the members of the Zoning Commission. So thank you, members of the Zoning Commission. I would like to go on record that after having heard from many of my constituents, the mayor's office, Chief Shen, and other elected officials about Plan Downtown, I do not oppose, but I cannot support several aspects of the proposed zoning amendment. I believe the proposed zoning has good potential as it will help create 9,000 jobs and is expected to create 2,500 residential units, of which 20% will be income restricted, making this the largest amount of middle-class income housing units to be created in downtown in generations. Given that I am deeply concerned about housing options for the middle and working class in downtown, I am supportive of the proposed zoning changes plan to help create homes for the middle and working class. However, the plan has not addressed all of the concerns I have previously submitted to the Planning Department earlier this year, specifically around the commercial development and accountability for developers. I am concerned about the ability for small local businesses such as hardware stores and small grocery stores owned by people of color and first-generation Americans to compete for space with big box stores and chains. I am concerned that there will be no longer a neighborhood at the end of the plan. Furthermore, I am concerned about the ability to preserve historic areas in the downtown neighborhood, such as the Boston Public Garden and the Boston Common. When it comes to the accountability for developers, I am concerned that development will occur building by building, but the zoning will be collective. Furthermore, I'm concerned about how developers will be held accountable for building their projects on time, accomplishing their affordability goals within the downtown area, and completing projects so as not to end up with projects that are approved for construction but remain unbuilt, like what happened at Suffolk Downs in East Boston. I would like to ask the Zoning Commission for more time to refine Plan Downtown, but I realize that 8 years of deliberation has been a long time for this discussion. I am thankful for your continued partnership, and I know you understand the importance of creating updated zoning that represents community perspectives and needs. Thank you, State Senator Lydia Edwards.
Thank you, Mela.
Next, I have State Representative Jay Livingstone. Representative Livingstone, please go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Jay Livingstone, and I serve as the state representative for the 8th Suffolk District, which includes the Boston neighborhoods of Beacon Hill, Back Bay, the West End, and the Fenway. The district also includes two of Boston's most iconic landmarks, the Boston Common and the Public Garden. While I appreciate many of the provisions in this zoning, including the down zoning that was referenced by Commissioner Woods, or questioned about by Commissioner Woods, and many of the other components that will allow more types of businesses, I'm not comfortable with the zoning for certain parts and ask that you reject it, as it could deprive the Boston Common and Public Garden of crucial needed sunlight. Moreover, a strong coalition has created a workable plan to double current zoning heights, except at critically sensitive areas. More than a year ago, they could have been used instead to meet the goals of this zoning without the negative impacts on the park. I've heard from significant local stakeholders on this matter, including the Beacon Hill Civic Association, the Neighborhood Association of Back Bay, the Fenway Civic Association, Revolutionary Spaces, the Freedom Trail Foundation, and most importantly, the Friends of the Public Garden. All are opposed. I've also heard uniformly from objections from my constituents on this proposal. First, I want to express why the Boston Common and the Public Garden are so important. Both are iconic parks that are intertwined with Boston's identity. When Boston is shown on national TV, it is very commonly an image of one of these two parks, Visitors travel from around the world to visit the Boston Common, America's first public park, and the public garden, one of the most beautiful parks in the world. The parks are also enjoyed as public green spaces by thousands of residents and visitors daily. I'm lucky enough to use the parks daily, typically on my commute walking to the State House from Back Bay through the public garden and common. And my family, like so many others, are constantly using the parks for soccer, for baseball, and other outdoor recreational activities. My experiences are not unique. These spaces are part of our lives, which is why I work so hard as a state representative to preserve them. I want to thank Mayor Wu for the time and effort that she has personally spent on this proposal, speaking with stakeholders and other individuals to understand their concerns. And I appreciate the changes that have been made to date. I'm never surprised and always appreciate the mayor's hands-on approach to receiving public input. That said, unfortunately, I fear the proposal will allow development that could have a significant detrimental impact on the Boston Common and Public Garden, particularly the heights the plan would allow on Washington Street and Park Plaza. If this zoning proposal is approved, it would be permanent and available for additional development projects, not only for Mayor Wu, but for future administrations, whether or not future mayors respect and appreciate the parks, as I know our current mayor does. Because of that, I ask that you not approve this plan today. The zoning is currently 155 feet along many of these streets, and to allow the maximum sunshine for grass, trees, and flowers in the Boston Common and Public Garden. As I mentioned, I understand this can be doubled to 300 feet while maintaining the same level of protection. The zoning proposal, however, would allow development up to 500 feet and up to 700 feet in places, which could negatively impact these treasured green spaces. I know the zoning plan specifically references the shadow law as a limit on height. This is not enough. While the shadow law was a novel limitation in our state to protect the Boston Common and Public Garden, it has proven to be porous at times and not always provide the protection to the parks anticipated. It is a document that was heavily negotiated in the political process decades ago, contains numerous exceptions. It is not true that it will present the backstop of protection to get the sunshine that we need in the parks allowed. If you want to protect the sunshine on the Boston Common Public Garden, you can't approve this proposal as written. Indeed, this zoning process came about from the last fight around the shadow law. It was hoped that this zoning process would allow more development in the downtown, something that all the groups that I mentioned earlier support, including the Friends of the Public Garden, while providing more guarantees for the sunshine for the Boston Common and Public Garden. Instead, it does not. And as far as I can tell, it hasn't done that analysis and just relies on the existing state law as a limit, which would be there whether it's referenced, which would be a limit whether it's referenced in the code or not. There's a better way, and Mayor Wu has creatively shown us that through different projects in Boston. I also represent the Back Bay Fens in the Fenway neighborhood. The area around the Fens has faced increasing development pressure. Mayor Wu wisely instructed the Parks Department, working with the BPA, to conduct a thorough study on the Back Bay Fens, plant and animal life, and how residents and visitors use the park. I understand the resulting report will be used to determine in a fair and thoughtful way whether future proposed development will or will not negatively impact the park to determine whether it should be approved. That thoughtful, data-driven approach should and could be replicated here. And in fact, I recently met with Director Chen and asked him to do that. And he said he's going to do that in the future and may come back to you with zoning changes. It's going to be hard to undo these changes once new economic interests are created later. That process should happen before. The Friends of the Public Garden several years ago produced a similar model for the development around the Boston Common and Public Garden called the Sunshine Model. The Sunshine Model would allow more development in certain places than the proposed zoning and less development in others, but it would guarantee future sunshine on the green spaces of Boston Common and Public Garden so they can be enjoyed for generations to come. I urge you to not accept the zoning proposal today and instead work towards a framework along the lines of the Sunshine Model that will secure our parks for the future generations to come. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, Representative Livingston.
Thank you.
Next, I have Luigi Natal on behalf of Representative Mitch Lewitz. Luigi, please go ahead.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. I'm Luigi Natali. I work for Representative Aaron Michaelowicz, here to speak on his behalf. He opposes the current downtown master plan. While he supports its overall goals, he cannot back the changes to the Sky D zone, which threaten the neighborhood character, and he is concerned about preserving affordable housing. He thanks everyone for their work and hopes downtown remains vibrant, inclusive, and sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you, Luigi. Miranda, are there any other?
Yes, I
elected
want to
officials?
call out if Councillor Flynn is online. Please, you have the floor now. Or Councilor Member Gabriela Coletta Zapata. If not, we will start the public testimony. All right, we can begin with Kelsey Pramick. You will have 2 minutes to speak. You may start now.
Good morning. My name is Kelsey Pramick, and I'm Chief of Staff of the Downtown Boston Alliance. By mission, the Downtown Boston Alliance works to represent a constituency as broad as downtown's many stakeholders, including commercial property owners, small business owners, historic sites, residents, commuters, workers, shoppers, diners, students, theater patrons, tourists, and more. Our position is rooted in a commitment to the collective success of our city and neighborhood and the necessity of responsible, forward-looking zoning policy. We strongly support the zoning plan for downtown before you today as proposed, which will modernize zoning downtown for the first time in nearly 40 years, leading to a safer, more vibrant mixed-use district with a thriving small business community and the development of sorely needed housing throughout the affordability spectrum. You will hear today criticism of the process of developing this plan. However, it is a result of an 8-year process, including much more intensively over the past 3 years. The planning department is to be commended for their work to engage all of downtown stakeholders and prioritizing collective outcomes over individual ones. The resulting plan from that process is fair, inclusive, and reflects multiple concessions to those who objected to height and density in the neighborhood within our city that can most easily and most appropriately handle height and density. Downtown is perhaps the single best location for transit-oriented development anywhere in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. It is located at the nexus of our region's public transportation system and our largest commercial office district. There's nowhere better
Kelsey,
suited to—
you have 30 seconds.
Okay, there's nowhere better suited to fight the effects of our extreme housing crisis than in downtown Crossing. Now is the time to pave the way for future generations to be able to live, work, visit, study, or shop under a new downtown Boston, and we ask that you vote in favor of the much-needed amendments pending before the commission this morning. Thank you.
Next, I have Ronald Drucker. Ronald, you will have 2 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'm not going to repeat what was just said, except that we've owned property in the downtown Crossing for over 75 years. The downtown Crossing, unfortunately, has deteriorated to a level where it's unsafe and the economics of the area are not producing what the city needs. I urge that the amendment be passed by the commission in order to revitalize the downtown Crossing area. And there is a sensitivity naturally to shadowing on the public garden. I am a board member of the Council of the Friends of the Public Garden, and I work closely with them. And it would be the intention of the city to protect anything that would damage our public spaces. I will end by saying, please pass it. The economics and the preservation of the downtown Crossing ladder blocks is at stake. Thank you.
Next, I have Leslie Adam. Leslie, you will have 2 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'm Leslie Adam, the board chair for the Friends of the Public Garden. The Friends supports a vibrant, thriving downtown. But with this downtown zoning, we urge the city to pause and consider a critical unintended consequence. The combination of dramatically increased building heights and legacy exemptions in the state shadow laws could mean hours of new shadows across the Boston Common and Public Garden every single day. More than 35 years ago, our organization's early advocacy helped establish those shadow laws, essential protections for two of Boston's most iconic parks. They included special exemptions for the Midtown Cultural District, where buildings were once capped at 155 feet, and allowed up to 2 hours of additional shadow on the parks. But under the new zoning, those same exemptions could now apply to towers 500 feet or higher. The cumulative effect, project by project, we risk losing sunlight 1 hour, 1 season, 1 space at a time. The Friends are not opposing downtown's continued development. We're advocating for smarter growth, development that respects the balance between a dynamic downtown and the health of the green spaces that define our city's character. We believe this balance can be achieved by allowing the 2-hour Midtown Cultural District exemption only after shadow impacts have been studied.
Leslie,
not
you have 30 seconds.
This adjustment would provide Boston residents, park users, and city officials the opportunity to apply for analytical framework to assess the impacts of new shadows. With today's advanced modeling tools, we have the ability and responsibility to base zoning on real analysis, not outdated assumptions from 35 years ago. We can and must do better. Anyone who walks these parks knows the difference between sunlight makes. We already observed that most challenging park spaces.
Thank you, Leslie. Your 2 minutes is up. Next, I have Ann Peacher, and you will have 2 minutes. Please go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Ann Peacher. I'm a resident of downtown Boston, a neighborhood that more than 15,000 people call home. There's a simple and fair solution to the concerns we all share about future development in our neighborhood along Washington Street and the so-called ladder blocks leading to the Boston Common. Right now, our zoning height limit is 155 feet. That's about 15 stories, 1-5. But the current proposal would allow buildings 500 feet tall. 50 stories, 50, a massive jump in height. No other residential neighborhood in Boston has anything close to this kind of zoning. If the city wants to build high-rises, it already has the Financial District, just east of Washington Street. But it also has a responsibility to protect the historic character and unique nature of Downtown Crossing, Washington Street, and the area around the Boston Common and Public Garden. Taller buildings bring real problems: long shadows, wind tunnels, traffic congestion, and they start to chip away at what makes this neighborhood and the areas around the parks livable. We've already agreed to support a height limit of 300 feet, or about 30 stories. That's a real compromise that we offer to the city. We want new development. We want more residences and businesses to thrive, but these projects need to make sense for the current neighborhood. As a member of the Downtown Coalition, our compromise was never considered or acknowledged. It is a realistic height that allows for building without jeopardizing.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
The unique quality of downtown. I call on you as commissioners and guardians of the city to reject this plan and urge the city to get it right for those who have already committed and invested in our neighborhood. Thank you.
Next, I have Anthony Pinjaro. Anthony, you will have 2 minutes. Go ahead. Anthony, if you were there.
Yeah, I was just going to remind everyone that if you,
Unmute.
when you're called
Would you
on,
mind
please.
starting the clock again? I didn't realize that. Is that okay?
Yes, you're fine, Anthony.
You have 2
Thank you
minutes.
very
Please
much.
go ahead.
You're being asked today to take an irrevocable step. Once approved, the dramatic upzoning of these important areas of downtown will be irreversible. The proposed changes have vast unintended consequences that will be devastating to the historic fabric of important city blocks that abut the Common and the Public Garden. Despite assertions by the Planning Department, they are not adequately protected in this proposal because it provides several gerrymandered proposed boundary incursions that infiltrate the natural boundaries of the Sky Low District. The obvious probable outcome is adjacent neglect, disinvestment, dilapidation, blight, and demolition, all because landowners and developers will expect the same gerrymandered zones to be enlarged to allow them to build to 500 feet. This zoning has no proof of concept. It is not even illustrated, much less analyzed in its economic, transportation, infrastructure effects. Article 80 provides no solution here because it only enables a seriatim analysis, not the cumulative analysis that any fundamental planning tool would require. Here we are in the most sophisticated city in the country, and we have engaged none of them. Rather, this zoning relies upon simplistic relaxation of height and density controls applied in a jagged set of map districts that are detailed in a confusing set of tables and footnotes that will inevitably lead to litigation. I trust you read them. I respectfully request that you reject this proposal and send it back for a
You
professional.
have 30 seconds remaining.
Third-party review, revision, and resubmission. It is now well known that new construction and development are at a standstill because of building costs, tariffs, and high borrowing rates. Zoning isn't stopping anything. There is time to get this 25-year plan right. Thank you for making it.
Next, I have Thomas Nally. Thomas, you'll have 2 minutes. Please go ahead. Thomas, if you are speaking, you are still muted.
Should I start over?
Yes, you'll have 2 minutes. Please go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Thomas Nally, and I'm a planner and registered architect by training and a senior advisor at A Better City. A Better City represents a multi-sector group of nearly 150 business leaders united around a common vision to create a more vibrant, competitive, sustainable, and equitable city and region for all. Our mission is to engage the greater Boston business community and civic institutions in developing solutions and influencing policy through research and collaboration on transportation, climate, and land use issues. We share the city's goal of creating a thriving downtown, and we have been engaged in the Planned Downtown Initiative since 2018. A Better City appreciates the urgency to advance the zoning, as well as the overall objective to prioritize residential and mixed-use development and to strengthen historic preservation. The proposed changes are poised to enable the transit-oriented density needed to put our city on the path toward equitable growth and vibrancy. Additionally, the amendments critically strengthen protections for preserving downtown's historic character, providing new design guidelines for enhancing development near historic assets. While A Better City remains concerned about several aspects of the proposed changes, namely the conditional use provisions for certain office, hotel, and lab projects, we
You have
cannot
30 seconds remaining.
to delay these important zoning reforms any longer. We encourage the Zoning Commission to adopt the proposed amendments, and we look forward to working with the city as they implement these changes and move on to address other critically needed zoning updates across the city. Thank you.
Next, I have Jesse Kansan-Benenov. Jesse, you will have 2 minutes. Please go ahead.
Hello, my name is Jesse Kansan-Benenov. I'm the Executive Director of Abundant Housing Massachusetts. We're a Boston-based statewide pro-housing organization working to solve our extreme housing shortage in Boston and Massachusetts. I live in Jamaica Plain and work downtown on Milk Street. I want to register our strong support for the downtown rezoning on behalf of our hundreds of members across the city of Boston. This rezoning plan does exactly what we need to help downtown by significantly expanding housing capacity throughout the new Skyline District while respecting the history of the neighborhood. It incentivizes affordable housing and adaptive reuse of existing buildings and allows the kinds of businesses that will serve new residents and bring activity back to our streets in the most transit accessible neighborhood in all of New England. By adopting the zoning, the city of Boston will be following the will of the vast majority of voters and residents in Boston. Over the summer, my organization partnered with the Massing Polling Group to conduct a citywide poll of Boston residents' attitudes towards housing policy.
we found that an overwhelming majority of 81% of Boston residents say city officials need to take more action in order to address the housing crisis, including 86% of residents living in the grouping of neighborhoods in and around downtown. Furthermore, 66% of residents citywide say that they support building more homes and bringing down housing costs, even if policies or developments are opposed by neighborhood associations, including 62% of residents living in the neighborhoods in and around downtown.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
That by adopting this zoning, you will be taking a major step to addressing our citywide and regional housing shortage in a way that is supported by the vast majority of Boston residents. And indeed, downtown Boston is an asset for the entire city. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Tony Urcio. Tony, you have 2 minutes. Please go ahead.
My name is Tony Ursulo. I've lived in this downtown area for over 11 years. I've worked here for 25, and I served on Plan Downtown Advisory Group since it was formed in 2018. And I'm asking you to vote no on the zoning amendment. I think it's important to reinforce downtown is not one monolithic area. It has a large, vibrant financial district to the east of Washington Street with tall buildings throughout and room for many more. The plan will encourage that. So do I and many others. But the few blocks that are east of Washington Street next to Tremont Street and Boston Common have a different character. These neighborhoods, the latter blocks and Park Plaza, have a preponderance of smaller scale buildings, streets, and unique historic structures. It's similar to how Back Bay is laid out on either side of Boylston Street. While the prevailing height limit in these neighborhoods is supposed to be 155 feet throughout, the city has actually cherry-picked several individual developer sites for special treatment and will allow them to rise to 400 to 500 feet in height. That is the big issue. Buildings this high will only yield luxury housing and an uncertain affordable housing commitment. They will produce large ground level retail footprints that small businesses cannot afford, and they will disrupt the historic fabric of these neighborhoods while casting even more shadow on Boston Common. And all of this undercuts the primary stated goals of Plan Downtown. The plan and its zoning is supposed to be a roadmap for the next few decades. It should not be a tool for any administration to create short-term fixes. That's clearly what's happening here.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
And so many downtown residents, nonprofits, and elected officials, both here and at the BPDA board meeting, oppose the amendment before you. Should be a red flag. It's not in the right place yet. By voting no today, you're not telling the city to scrap the entire zoning amendment, but simply saying there are a few critical improvements that should be made, and that working with the community to get the plan right so that we can get to a better place and all support it is the right thing to do for downtown and for the city of Boston. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Martin Roeder. Martin, you will have 2 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Martin Roeder. I'm a resident of the Back Bay. I've been a long-time board member of the Neighborhood Association of the Back Bay, and in fact only stepped down as chair last month. So I'm speaking on behalf of the Neighborhood Association as well as myself. The first point I'd like to make, and you have no reason to believe me, is that I don't see this urgency need for quick fixes. And you can, there's a much better source than I for that conclusion, and that is Michael Nichols, who has recently referred in an article in the Boston Herald to the great improvement in the business environment within downtown. So that's point number one. Point number two is I think Back Bay, although it's obviously different from the downtown, is an excellent example of what one can do to accommodate very different elements within a single neighborhood that have different heights and different parts, different emphases within that neighborhood. And that's what I think can be achieved within downtown. I think this is a wonderful opportunity to avoid snatching defeat from the jaws of victory, to having a win-win situation, to show that the mayor's administration has learned a lot in the first term and is going to set a somewhat different direction in the second term that involves much more active communication with people among residents. And it's not that we have a hell of a lot to do. I think, in fact, that there are a lot of very good ideas out there, which the Downtown Coalition has succeeded in.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
So in fact, by spending just a bit more time, a few weeks, months at most, we can come up with something that will be durable and successful for the long term, and not, as I say, lead to something that will be very difficult to change when we realize that it's not working the way it's supposed to.
Thank you. Next, I have Kimberly Trask. Kimberly, you will have 2 minutes. Please go ahead.
Hi, I'm speaking as a resident of the downtown area for over 35 years. I think it's critically important for zoning to respond to the voice of the community because it's the residents that know that place best and have a lived experience. And this is the case that the downtown residents that are 15,000 strong and neighboring districts of Beacon Hill, Back Bay, etc., are all opposed to this plan. We're all here today in that coalition because we recognize this is a special area that needs special treatment. The plan is riddled with exceptions for PDAs and carve-outs and spot zones, and those exceptions overtake the rule. The plan will not solve our issues downtown. It will actually set us back. Downtown is already in the midst of a very positive transformation that's happening right now within our existing historic building structures, with significant new retail businesses going in on Washington Street, as well as numerous residential conversion projects that will add a lot more residents downtown in affordable housing. This plan is designed to cater to a couple, in the city's words, opportunity sites that will result in towers that will populate only luxury condos. That is not affordable housing. Everyone here who thinks they're getting affordable housing is mistaken. These are going to be luxury condos. And that's not what this plan
You
promised.
have 30 seconds remaining.
What we're looking for is a holistic plan that will develop this neighborhood holistically, not a couple of towers that serve luxury housing. I beg that this commission listen to the residents and realize we haven't been able to get the accommodations that we've sought that are very reasonable to protect this very special historic district.
Thank you. Next, I have Pamela Messenger. Pamela, you will have 2 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Pamela Messenger. I am president of Friends of Post Office Square, the green space in the middle of downtown. And I'm also currently serving as chair of the Downtown Boston Alliance. Rather than take an entire 2 minutes, I just want to extend my support and our support for the plan downtown for the reasons better stated today by Kelsey Pramick on behalf of the Downtown Boston Alliance and by Tom Nally on behalf of A Better City. So for speaking for me, we endorse this plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Martha McNamara. Martha, you will have 2 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm Martha McNamara. I'm an architectural historian, chair of the Board of Revolutionary Spaces, and a 40-year resident of Boston. Revolutionary Spaces cares for 2 iconic Freedom Trail sites within the planned downtown area, the Old State House and the Old South Meeting House. As the primary locus for the events that catalyzed our nation's founding, these 2 buildings are a precious national resource. It was here that the foundational ideas of our American democracy were articulated and fought for by John Adams in the colonial government rooms of the Old State House and by the Sons of Liberty gathering in Boston's largest building, the Old South Meeting House, to hold protests against British policies culminating in the Boston Tea Party. No other city in the nation tells the story of the American Revolution as clearly and cohesively as Boston does through these 2 buildings. We ask that you vote no on the planned downtown zoning amendment because wind and shadow effects created by tall towers permitted under this new zoning will irrevocably damage these touchstones of our nation's history. Allowing the construction of high-rises near these and other 18th century buildings in the area will concentrate the corrosive effects of shadows, wind, and precipitation on these important historic resources. Without sunlight, for instance, 300-year-old masonry is never able to dry out completely, requiring unaffordable and unsustainable maintenance issues. Shadows also significantly diminish visitors' experience of building interiors. For residents
You
and
have
tourists
30
alike,
seconds remaining.
millions of whom walk the Freedom Trail every year, the climate effects exacerbated by excessive height nearby will both significantly damage these iconic buildings and make the neighborhood uninviting and inhospitable. At Revolutionary Spaces, we want nothing more than a vibrant, active, prosperous downtown. We can have that through common sense planning that fosters innovative design at heights that promote livable, inviting streetscapes. Planned downtown zoning does not achieve those goals. We are asking
Thank
you,
you. Your
please,
2
to
minutes are
vote
up.
no.
Thank you. Next, I have Rishi Shukla. Rishi, you have 2 minutes. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Rishi Shukla. I serve as the head of the Downtown Boston Neighborhood Association and sit on the boards of the Downtown Boston Alliance and St. Francis House. I'm also an original member of the Planned Downtown Advisory Group and have been engaged in this process since day one. I know exactly what has and has not taken place over the last 8 years. I live in downtown with my wife and 2 young children. I've lived in Boston for 26 consecutive years, and I love our great city. I stand today with a broad coalition of stakeholders and several elected officials to urge you in voting no on the zoning proposal before you. Here's why. This zoning amendment is being advanced without any essential analysis or rigor. To date, the city has produced no studies on shadow, groundwater, infrastructure, transportation, or housing impacts, no cumulative impact studies, and not a single model or rendering. I'm assuming that you've seen none of these items either. As the city itself said recently of the Revolution Stadium proposal, and I quote, "The information you have shared remains conceptual with none of the technical detail or analysis needed as a baseline to properly assess the impact of your proposal. It lacks the basic details we would require of any significant development." Yet here we are today with the city thinking it's okay to move forward with this proposal that lacks basic fundamental detail. Why the double standard? I agree that 700-foot towers belong in the financial district, even though I don't believe that they'll deliver affordable or middle-income housing that is critically needed. This type of height does not belong in the ladder district, or the ladder blocks rather, or Park Plaza. It belongs in the financial district squarely. The city stating that it is going to abide by a state shadow law that it last violated in 2017 is an abdication of responsibility. This proposal disregards the adopted plan downtown, disregards community
You
and
have 30
stakeholder feedback,
seconds remaining.
and runs counter to the fundamentals of thoughtful urban planning. When so many state and elected officials and prominent stakeholders are voicing opposition, it begs the question, how can it be that we are all wrong? By voting no, you are not rejecting progress. You're simply asking the city to pause, reconvene, and refine. This isn't a video game. You don't get the reset button if you don't like the outcome. The decisions made today will shape the future of Boston. Please get this right. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Minor Perez. You will have 2 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Chairman Nichols, Commissioners, good morning. Minor Perez. I am the Executive Director for the Carpenters Labor Management, and I'm here representing thousands of union carpenters that live and work throughout the city of Boston and dozens of contractors that work in Boston and provide apprentices with a career opportunity to earn a good living. I am speaking in full favor of this proposal. First, I want to say thanks to the BPDA for the 8 long years of arduous process. I also want to thank the Office of Mayor Wu for allowing the community to be part of the process. And to you, commissioners, thank you for volunteering your time to help to move our city forward. This change is critically essential to revitalizing our downtown area. It impacts all my members, it impacts all residents in the Commonwealth. The fact of the matter is that 70% of city revenues, departments, to fund departments such as our police stations, fire department, schools, where my members' kids attend the school, they are in great need of these funds. We definitely think revitalizing this downtown area is going to help everybody.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
It's going to help to build affordable housing. And with that, it's with great respect, I ask you to your consideration to vote in the affirmative. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Ellen Lipsey. Ellen, you have 2 minutes. Please go ahead.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, Ellen. Please go ahead. You have 2 minutes.
I am Ellen Lipsey, a member of the board, excuse me, of Revolutionary Spaces and former director of the Boston Landmarks Commission. Revolutionary Spaces supports the right changes to make downtown thrive again. Let's build on the strengths in the ladder blocks along both sides of Washington, from Old South to the Old State House, and along School Street from Old Corner Bookstore to King's Chapel. These Freedom Trail properties comprise 1/3 of the 18th century structures remaining downtown in a city celebrated internationally for its historic character and culture, singular among American cities. These icons exist in a weave of complementary 19th and 20th century streetscapes. This area can be made more inviting and economically vibrant again for all who live, work in, and visit Boston. But please vote no tonight to finish the good work started in Plan Downtown. We can agree on reasonable new height and growth.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
While promoting conversions and protection of existing buildings. Extremely tall towers will create less active, less sunny sidewalks, more traffic, a loss of character and culture. The design guidelines need to be more specific. There needs to be analysis. Let's ensure that the heart of downtown celebrates what makes Boston, Boston.
Thank you, Ellen. Your 2 minutes are up. Next, I have Patricia Tooley. Patricia, you have 2 minutes. Please go ahead.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good morning. My name is Patricia Tully. I'm the Executive Director of the Beacon Hill Civic Association. On behalf of the Beacon Hill Civic Association, we respectfully urge the Zoning Commission to withhold approval of the proposed zoning amendment and refer it back to the BPDA for further revision and public review. After more than 7 years of community engagement, the zoning now before you fails to reflect the careful balance between growth, livability, and preservation that Boston's downtown deserves. We are deeply concerned that Plan Downtown does not achieve its stated goals of supporting housing affordability, preserving our city's historic fabric, and strengthening the environment for small businesses. Instead, the proposal accelerates a pattern of developer-driven decision-making that risks irreversible harm to the core identity of our city. Before approving any zoning of this magnitude, we urge the Zoning Commission to pause and ask whether you have 100% certainty in the following. Number 1, population growth and impact. Do you know how many new residents, workers, and students this zoning will generate? Have those projections been transparently shared and validated, as the BHCA, for example, has not seen them? Number 2, infrastructure and schools. Can you confidently state that Boston's public infrastructure, transit, and school system have the capacity to accommodate this growth without sacrificing livability? Number 3, affordable housing production. Do you know the exact number of total
You have
housing?
30 seconds remaining.
Can you confirm that these ratios meet the city's stated equity and inclusion goals? Shadows on public parks. Can you say with certainty that no new shadows will ever fall on Boston Common or the Public Garden as a result of this plan or its foreseeable developments? Historic preservation. Finally, can you guarantee that Boston's historic character will be protected under this plan, particularly in the ladder blocks and Park Plaza areas? The West End and Scully Square remain a cautionary tale of what happens when unchecked
Thank you,
development.
Patricia. Your 2 minutes are up. Next, I have Sean McShane. Sean, you will have 2 minutes. Please go ahead. Sean, if you are speaking, you are muted. We can still not hear you, Sean. still cannot hear you. I will come back to you. And we will move on to Bill Grogan. Bill, you have 2 minutes. Please go ahead.
Good morning. I'm Bill Grogan, the president of the Planning Office for Urban Affairs, a nonprofit affordable housing developer. And we have developed more than 3,100 units of housing across the region. Over 1,500 of those units have been developed in Boston with a deep focus on affordability, community development, and social justice. On behalf of our office, we support this downtown Boston rezoning amendment. We believe this rezoning is a critical step toward creating a more inclusive, vibrant, and sustainable downtown. It offers a forward-thinking framework that balances historic preservation, adaptive reuse, and housing creation, which are all priorities that align with our mission. It brings important tools to better utilize underutilized sites and properties, encourage reinvestment, and unlock new housing opportunities. For example, we are currently working on the potential conversion of an office building in the downtown district, which would be converted to a variety of housing uses. Our proposed conversion would be allowed as of right under the new zoning amendment, which would expedite our development timeframe and conversion efforts. By enabling more housing, more predictability, and more reinvestment downtown, this rezoning not only supports Boston's future growth, but also directly helps organizations like ours continue to serve those most in need. We're proud to support a policy change that delivers broad public value and strengthens our ability to fulfill our mission. Thank you.
Thank you. Sean McShane, if you are on, please try again. You have 2 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity to address you today. My name is Sean McShane, Operations Coordinator for the Freedom Trail Foundation, speaking on behalf of the foundation. Annually, over 4 million people experience Boston's iconic Freedom Trail and its 16 official historic sites, our city's unique treasures dating from the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries. The Freedom Trail's economic and cultural impact are invaluable to our residents and businesses, from hotels to restaurants, shops, and beyond, responsible for over $1 billion in spending and helping to sustain over 120,000 jobs in the tourism industry. Protecting the trail and the historic sites from Boston Common, America's oldest public park, to Boston's historic burying grounds, the Old South Meeting House, Old Corner Bookstore, and more is imperative for our economy, as well as the quality of life of our residences, businesses, and visitors alike. No other place in America has preserved historic sites as greatly as we have in the city of Boston. With the potential for over 500-foot buildings near and along the Freedom Trail, as well as the rest of the ladder blocks and Park Plaza neighborhoods, this development will not only negatively affect the Freedom Trail's historic sites, but also the trail experience by obscuring these gems and creating unpleasant, cavernous conditions along Washington Street and elsewhere. People come to Boston to live, work, and play due to its quality of life, including its walkability and historic fabric. We implore you to oppose the plan in its current iteration to ensure downtown development plans help to augment this important part of our city, maintains Boston's true assets, and continue to make this city the place where people want to be, whether visiting, working, or calling it home. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Michelle Landers. Michelle, you have 2 minutes. Please go ahead.
Hi, good morning. I'm the Executive Director of the Urban Land Institute's Boston New England District Council. We represent a wide spectrum of land use and real estate professionals working across both private enterprise and public service. The mission of ULI is to shape the built environment for transformative impact in communities worldwide. We achieve this by convening experts, sharing best practices, and advancing responsible land use. The goals outlined in Plan Downtown reflect a thoughtful and forward-looking approach to urban revitalization, and these priorities align with best practices for revitalizing urban centers and are essential to the long-term success of downtown Boston. The plan's recognition of the distinct character areas and corresponding strategies demonstrates a nuanced and inclusive approach to preservation and growth. Prioritizing housing in Boston's most transit-accessible neighborhood enhances mobility, reduces reliance on cars, and supports a vibrant, walkable core. The emphasis on sustainable development and climate resilience is especially critical as cities face increasing environmental challenges. I want to thank the efforts of everyone involved in this process and look forward to seeing how this unfolds. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Nancy Gerlach. Nancy, you have 2 minutes. Please go ahead.
Good morning. Thank you.
I have sent a letter to everybody that I could identify, outlining a number of issues that I have with this plan. I strongly oppose it. I've lived in New York for over 30 years, Boston for a total of 14, and I can confidently say that more high-rise development is not necessarily positive. Trying to get on the Lexington Avenue subway line almost any time of day, but certainly during rush hour, was an absolutely miserable experience. I don't believe that this high-rise development is going to provide the kind of affordable housing that we are all hoping for. 20% of the total square footage, 20% of the 60% of the residential space, in what kind of quality space, large enough for families. I'm concerned that this 700-foot development, this canyon along Washington Street, that'll probably whip the wind, is simply a ruse for luxury apartments for wealthy investors. And in New York, over the years, more and more apartments are dark in the nighttime because they are unoccupied. They are simply places for wealthy to put their money and hope for a gain in the future. I think this presentation has been disingenuous in that it has shown us nothing of what it would look like to build out.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
This particular zoning plan. There has been no modeling with regard to the impact on water, sewer, fires, schools. And I just think that this is a totally unprofessional plan that has been put forward. So I strongly oppose it.
Thank you. Next, I have David Spriggs. David, you have 2 minutes. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'd like to thank the board for their careful analysis of this. I would point out to the board that there's an interesting development here as we listen to the testimony, in that the testimony is uniformly against the development plan because in part of the discontinuity that happened after the first of the year and the dropping of many of the inputs that had been previously provided by the neighborhood association. And what we have left is a proposal which seems to be widely opposed by the local stakeholders and vigorously opposed by the people who don't live here. And that I think has implications for how we manage our democracy. I think it has important implications for how we even make the assumptions within this policy plan. And for example, counting on the state to protect the green space and the shadows on the common and the public garden is completely dependent on people who don't live in the area. It's completely dependent on people who don't live in Boston and have no idea the value of these spaces and can be overturned in a second, as the last 10 months of that our national government has shown that these things are all variable. And I think
you have 30 seconds remaining.
A reconsideration of the plan to really enforce that part of the plan, which is going to be beneficial and preserve the historical nature of the downtown Washington Street and Park Plaza area, is essential. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Dan Daly. Dan, you have 2 minutes. Please go ahead.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm a lifelong Boston resident. I'm also a member of Local 103 with the electricians. And the city needs the housing, good union jobs for Boston residents, and respectful growth downtown Boston. I fully support this rezoning proposal. And thank you for allowing me the time.
Thank you. And next I have Oscar Lopez. Oscar, you have 2 minutes. Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Oscar Lopez. Thank you for the time to speak. I just want to say I overwhelmingly support the project. I was a resident of Allston Brighton for 35 years. I consistently work in Allston now as a housing community engagement manager for Charlesview Inc. And I think this project not only supports just more housing, which is desperately needed within the city of Boston, but this project will incentivize affordable housing, incentivize adaptive reuse of existing buildings, which is desperately needed in order to keep the character of downtown Boston. And with such a huge portion of this project needed to keep, Bostonians in Boston, I want to say I just fully support this project. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. And those are all the hands I have for today.
Thank you, Miranda. I really appreciate your handling that. That was very, very well done. I also want to just thank everyone that has offered testimony today and also acknowledge the written testimony. Our full commissioners did receive much written testimony on this, which is also extremely valuable, and I wanted to recognize that. At this point in the hearing, we would ask if the proponents would like a brief period of rebuttal, if you so desire. Chief Shen or Andrew?
Andrew and I are just going to highlight a couple of key things that were addressed in the public testimony and also directly in the letter from Mayor Wu and Chief Shen. I think one of the most important ones is that over the course of this 2-year-long process reviewing drafts, the zoning has changed directly in response to the participation of the former AG members, many of the stakeholders you heard from today. One of those biggest ones is that throughout downtown, for the first time, our zoning is prioritizing residential development while subjecting any proposal to major office space to further review and additional approvals. This is a major shift to prioritize housing in the future growth of the neighborhood and responding directly to comments that we heard from residents of the area. In the Washington Street corridor, where you heard many comments and many concerns, as we did throughout the process of concern about development, where we know it's greatest, we have further limited heights in this area to 200 feet unless it is for residential development delivering housing. To address direct concerns about those limited sites where taller buildings could be possible, we further capped heights in that corridor including for housing projects. Together, right, that means that across the Washington Street corridor, there are likely only 4 sites along that street that are realistic candidates for heights that are similar to, or in most cases lower than 500 feet, and are always subject to the state shadow regulations. These sites are adjacent to our major public transportation stations, shout out all my Orange Line riders, as well as, of course, Downtown Crossing. Those potential heights would be in line with recent residential buildings, including 45 Province Street, 1 Avery Street, or the Ritz-Carlton Tower that exists in the Washington Street corridor, and significantly lower than Millennium Tower, making them contextual with heights that already exist in that corridor. Ultimately, for any housing project in downtown, through the work of you as a zoning commission, are all subject to inclusionary zoning and the requirement to provide on-site affordable housing. We are confident and think that downtown is one of the locations where inclusionary zoning will allow us to produce affordable housing at scale and is critically important to achieving more affordable housing in downtown and its surrounding neighborhoods, which have some of the lowest rates of on-site inclusionary affordable housing in the city. Additionally, this is one of the areas of the city where analysis of the Mayor's Office of Housing have found that we have the lowest risk for displacement. Displacement is a risk, both direct and indirect displacement is a risk across the city for all of our residents. And so we think it is particularly important in focusing on downtown. We're both contributing to the revitalization of the area and directly helping mitigate the risk of displacement for residents across our city. across and bringing this forward to you, we're excited about what it means for tenanting vacant retail spaces, for the possibility for adaptive reuse and conversion, and for those limited sites where we think this can help deliver the long-term transformative development that the city needs. We look forward to working with every stakeholder on this call through the Article 80 process and all of our policy efforts to monitor the impacts of this zoning, to make course corrections and adjustments where we need to, and to celebrate the successes it will bring. We're very proud to bring it forward to you, and we're also happy to answer any broad or detailed policy questions you may have about the zoning.
Thank you, Kathleen. Does that close the rebuttal?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. At this point, I would ask if any of the commissioners have any questions or comments that they'd like to state.
I do.
Okay, Drew?
Yes, I think this is a very thoughtful proposal. I do understand the comments that have taken exception with it, and I think there were some very good ones there. But overall, we have a real problem in the downtown, and I'm particularly sensitive to this. One, I live effectively, I live in the Leather District, effectively adjacent to the downtown, and will be, taller buildings there. And we've been our community has been supportive in recent cases about such buildings. The main problem we have is the downtown has totally changed. The department stores that were there in the past, I think Macy's is the only one left. I think that they did a great job, Tony Pangaro, with the Filene's site, but I know that there's a tall tower with that as well, and I think it was very well done. And I think these kinds of things can be done in the future. What we really need, because we don't have the same kind of retail we were having in the past, we do have the transportation system. We have all these subway lines here. We need to be able to take advantage of it. I love going into the downtown. It's when it is active, we need that to happen again. And I think that what has been proposed really does a good job of that. I will just share this. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio for the first 18 years of my life. And I watched that change from the sixth largest city in the country with the second most corporate offices there, to a downtown, in a downtown that was thriving, to one that was hollowed out. I do not want to see that happen to Boston. Boston has a lot of other advantages. Again, I think the Common and Public Gardens certainly help that, but we need to really be looking at the downtown as well. We need to do whatever we can to do that. And what we mostly need is bodies and dollars being spent for the kind of for retail that is going to be here at the base. And that means housing, and it may mean some office projects in the future and hotels in the future, but primarily it needs the residents living here and support the retail. I think that Kathleen, the comment that I heard that actually struck me a little bit was the one by, I think it was Miss Peacher, regarding the compromise on the couple of sites that are allowed to exceed the shadows on the common, and that particular issue. That is not enough to make me vote no on this project, but it is something I think that you should look at in the future. Maybe it's already resolved in what you've suggested, and maybe it can be done through the PDA process, but that would be one element there. I think it looks to me like the ladder blocks are protected in this plan. I mean, there would be some tall buildings on the other side of Washington Street. There will be a few cases, but it doesn't look to me like they really impact the ladder block very much. We live in the Leather District, a similar situation. And as I say, we have tall buildings pretty much adjacent to us as well. Thank you. I will be supporting this when it comes time to vote.
Thanks, Drew. Ricardo, did you want to speak?
Yes. So I'm going to say I agree with Drew. So I want to first speak out that I'm a landscape architect, but I also support my architects in the community. And I'm a big supporter of Friends of the Public Garden. And I spent a fair amount of time talking to, staff at the Old Arboretum and folks who know a lot about trees and care about the trees in our open spaces. And while I acknowledge that, that the shadows are a concern, the city is embarking on a study. I think it's important that the city has referenced the regulations, the state regulations, and I agree that's very good. I also think that it is important to have development, and I, like Drew, hope that for these 3 sort of parcels that have been carved out, there is a rigorous process of working with the development team to sort of make sure that their impacts are minimized, or if there are impacts, because I understand. I mean, I think shadows in the public and the common can impact sort of how people enjoy the space. And so I would hope that maybe as developments move forward, some concessions can be made from the development team so that they can support additional funds for maintaining the garden and the common. So I think that would be something that I would like to see. But and I'm also sensitive to the notion of the historic quality. But like Drew, I don't really see the major impacts along the Ladder districts or these 3 parcels. And I also think that while I love the passionate conversations, I think that I am a Pam Messenger, Friends of Post Office Square. She understands, tall buildings along a green space, and we can all concede that Post Office Square is a real success story. So I think tall buildings and green spaces can coexist as long as the maintenance is actually appropriate for this. Shadow is an impact for trees, but also things like compaction and care and water. So there's a lot of things that influence the ability of trees to grow. And in terms of the transit-oriented development, and for the needs of our housing, I think this goes a long way in trying to resolve that, and I'm a real advocate of this. I also feel that the planning department has been unfairly characterized by many of the folks who have been testifying. This is a highly professional planning department. We have many dedicated people in that department who truly care about the city and are trying to create a balanced proposal that is trying to address complex times and addresses many of the issues that are important to Boston's constituency. So as a result of that, I will also be voting in favor of this.
Thank you, Ricardo. Michael?
Thanks, Jill, and I don't want to belabor the point, but I think Ricardo makes some great points against the sort of arguments of the shadow, and Drew, I think, makes some good points about the sort of the idea of characters or neighborhoods, can go the wrong way too without change and growth. And so I think those are critical things to move this forward. Besides a few other arguments that I heard that I wanted to speak to, I think this idea of timing wise, zoning isn't stopping development right now. And that might be partially true, but we can't continue to wait and delay. And it's been 8 years of process already, and especially last 3 years, and continue to go through this and miss another cycle when development is more likely to happen in the future. So that's why it is important, I think, to move this forward with urgency now. Some other comments about wanting more study, wanting to get it to be perfection, wanting to get it to, absolute guarantees that, something won't be affected negatively. I don't think that's real life, right? Life isn't perfect. It isn't guaranteed. It's probabilistic. And I think it's very clear that this has been a well thought out change that will do much more good or provide a much higher likelihood of good than potential negative outcomes. I think that's very clear. And the idea that this is an opportunity to build in the downtown area, super transit oriented, at scale, that's going to provide a lot of housing opportunity and a lot of affordable housing, both with the inclusionary zoning, but also with other impacts like filtering impacts and others throughout the city, that I think will absolutely is critical to move this forward, to encourage the production of more housing and more affordable housing that we absolutely very much need. So I'm in favor of that. And I think just to move this line, I don't want to end any discussion, but I'll make a motion to approve tax amendment application number 539, 542, map amendment application 797, skyline zoning and corresponding amendments.
Ryan
If I
has
can
his
just
hand
make
up.
a statement too, I just want to, if I
Yeah,
can. before
I was
we-
going to say we have a motion. I think there were a couple other folks, Michael, that, so before I call for a second, I know Ryan has his hand up. and I
Yeah,
think
just to be clear, like I
Aisha-
said, I don't want to end any
I
discussion
understand.
we can do this, but thank
Oh,
you.
no, that's fine. That's fine. Thanks. And I know Aisha had she was unmuted actually, Ryan, before you were. So I don't know if Aisha, you had something as well. So Ryan, and I'll call on you next if Aisha has any comments. Oh, I think you might be muted.
I was just gonna second the vote.
Oh, thank you, Aisha. Thank you.
Sorry.
So we have a motion and a second. Ryan, do you have some comments, please?
Thank you. I just want to begin, as Jill mentioned too, by sincerely thanking everybody for sharing their testimony, their letters, their emails with us. I've read through them all. I think we've had over 100 over the past week and a half or so that have come in with thoughtful consideration. I also want to thank the elected representatives who have contributed their voices throughout the process. As a longtime employee for the Boston Parks Department, I have a deep personal connection to our parks and our open spaces. And now as a professional working in tourism marketing, I recognize the importance of fostering a vibrant, livable downtown, one that welcomes both residents and visitors to enjoy culture, nightlife, and to bring people in outside of the normal 8 to 5 o'clock workday. Supporting initiatives that bring energy to our city, whether it's new retail, restaurants, creative public spaces, cultural activations. Here at Meet Boston, we're working on ways to make it more of an inviting city during our winter time when we're mostly, in our dormancy, and always prioritizing strengthening our local economy. I'm encouraged to hear that the tallest proposed buildings, the ones that were mentioned as up to 700 feet, will be located in areas that do not cast significant shadows on America's First Park, and that our state shadow laws remain a key protection. And I look forward to the continued work of the planning agency, work that they're doing on sunlight modeling to guide responsible and smart development. So as always, each proposed development will go through the Article 80 process to address the crucial concerns, whether it's height, wind, shadows, and other environmental and community impacts. And again, I want to thank everyone who shared their input. Your voices were heard, and they've been a vital part of this downtown planning process. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Are there any other comments from the commissioners? If not, we have a motion, we have a second, and I'd like to take a roll call vote of the commissioners. Ms. Morikawa?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. DeMella?
Yes.
Mr. Marr?
Yes.
Mr. Leff?
Yes.
Mr. Arroyo?
Yes.
Mr. McNeil?
Yes.
Mr. Ostrich?
Yes.
Mr. Woods?
Yes.
And myself, Jill Hatton, yes. The motion carries 10-0. Thank you to everyone that testified and participated in this process. And as was noted by Ricardo, thank you to the planning department for all your efforts. I know it's been a long project, and to the public for participating. There is more to come on this as this is implemented. So thank you to everyone. That concludes our meeting today. And at this point, I don't know, Jeff, if you have anything from a process perspective for our next meeting you want to share?
No, nothing right now.
Okay.
Jill, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. And thank you again, everyone, and have a good day.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.